guys, today we are going to be going over the 3 most popular methods of quilting: hand quilting, free motion quilting, and longarm quilting. We're going to just give a general overview of each method so you can know what each one's about. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, we're going to start with hand quilting. It is exactly as it sounds, quilting by hand, so if you are familiar with embroidery or hand sewing, this method's going to come really easy to you. It is the most basic method and the most accessible, I would say, because it requires as little equipment as possible. All you need is a needle and thread. We recommend a thicker thread like embroidery floss or quilting specific thread. This just gives a better stitch definition than regular thread when you're using it to quilt. You can use a thimble if you want, and then others also use an embroidery hoop just to keep the quilt from shifting at all. It makes your space a little easier to work with, but really it's personal preference. You can use safety pins to baste or basting spray. You can see I use safety pins here, and it worked out pretty well. You just want to remove them as you're going so it doesn't get in the way. But yeah, it's a pretty simple method, and I'm going to move you up top now so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll give you a basic walkthrough. Alright, so we've got our pieces cut out, we have the back, batting, and top. Make your quilt sandwich, and we'll put it through our embroidery hoop. Right, now I already threaded my needle here, so you'll want to do that before you get started, and then just make sure the knot and the end of the thread is not too large, because then you won't be able to embed it in the middle of the quilt. This, I would say, is the biggest question mark for most people that want to take on hand quilting. I know I at first was confused as to how you were supposed to get the thread started and start quilting without the knot showing on the front or the back, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So after you get the knot in, make sure it's not too big. We'll just go in it wherever you want to start your quilting, and you're going to put the needle through. You'll put it through the top and the batting, but you won't go through the back, and then you'll come back up, and then you'll tug just enough to make that knot go through the top, but then it'll be embedded into the batting. So don't pull too hard. You don't want to rip it straight through everything, or maybe even just rip your thread from where it's stuck in there. So you'll just tug it just enough to where it embeds in the batting, and then we'll cut off the tail. And there you go. It started. No knot on the back or the front. So now we will get to quilting. Really the most basic, and what I'm going to show you today, is the running stitch, which is basically just going up and down through the fabric. You can get as complicated or as simple as you want, really. I think that's my favorite part of quilting, is there aren't really any strict rules, so you can do this however you want. But to do the running stitch, you'll start with your thread, how it's pulled up through the top. You're just going to go down through all 3 layers. You'll poke up on the back side. You want to get like about 1/4 of an inch away from that first stitch, and then pull it through. And then you'll come up about 1/4 of an inch away again to create that stitch on the back. And you'll just keep doing that. You can do it in a straight line, you can do it in a pattern, however you want, really. If you are comfortable with this, you can do more than one stitch at a time by kind of bobbing it through. That is more helpful when you have a longer needle. just because it makes it a little easier to handle, and you can get farther in your quilt without having to run out of needle. But yeah, it's pretty simple. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and we will do our best to answer them for you. And we'll move on to free motion quilting. So now we're going to talk about free motion quilting. You will need a sewing machine for this method, and I do personally think it's a little harder than hand quilting. It does take a lot of practice, but it is so much fun once you get the hang of it. So basically what it is dropping the feed dogs on your machine down, which normally they carry your fabric from front to back, but dropping them down allows you to move your quilt whichever way you want to create your design. So there are a few different ways you can set up your design. You can freehand it, kind of making your design as you go. You can draw it out with an erasable pen or a washable marker and use that as your guide. Or another popular method is using quilting templates. This kind of helps keep your foot where it needs to go, keeping your stitching a little more straight and even. In the beginning, it's really hard to get your stitching kind of even. That's one of the big challenges, is just making sure it's not super wobbly or wonky, making sure your kind of pace is where it needs to be. So these help a lot with that, and we're going to show you how to use one of those right now. Today we're going to be using the free motion quilting template set that we have here at Dabline, and we'll leave a link in the description below so you can see where to get those. This set does have 8 different templates, as well as a quilting frame and a set of gloves. This frame is super nice because you just put it right over the template, and then you can hold on to these handles rather than holding on to the template itself. And then we also include some non-skid rings that you can stick on the bottom. That just really helps with keeping everything taut on your fabric. You don't want too much movement or your design's not gonna look quite right. So having those little things totally helps a lot, especially if you're a beginner at this. You want all the help you can get. And then each set has a little card that shows you the design and the instructions, which is super helpful. And today we're going to be using the meander template, so let's get right into it. One of the things you will need if you're going to use a free motion quilting template is a ruler foot. It just sticks right in the groove, which allows it to stay in place. If you use a regular free motion quilting foot, it will probably go under the template, which kind of defeats the purpose. So I'm going to switch mine out right now. All right, now that we got our ruler foot on, we are ready to go. I did put my gloves on as well. It just helps keep things kind of easier to work with, gets a better grip on the fabric. And then also make sure you drop your feed dogs. There should be a button on your machine somewhere to do that, or maybe a cover. If you're not sure, I would check your manual. And then also drop your stitch length to 0. We're gonna put our foot at the beginning of the template, and you can do a practice round if you want and just kind of go through and get the feel for it, or you can get started right away. Either works. You want to go super slow. I'm holding down both the inside and the outer part just to make sure. I noticed it was hitting the foot here when I got over here, so just making sure everything's pushed down, you got a good grip, and then you can get to sewing. You want to go super slow. Slow and steady wins the race. You don't want to jerk it at all, and if you have to stop and kind of readjust things, that's okay too. You just want to make sure you're leaving your template where it was so that your design lines up properly. And then once you get to the end, you can leave your foot down. And just flip the template. And then you'll just do that again, and then you'll reach the end, flip it again, and just keep going like that. All right, last but not least, we have our long arm quilting. This is, I would say, more of an advanced technique. Many people don't have long arms in their home. Some people have them and do them strictly as like a business. They'll take other people's quilts and quilt them on the long arm machine, send them back to them. So we're not going to do a full demonstration of this, but basically the way it differs from free motion quilting, obviously it's on a larger scale, but instead of moving the quilt, you're going to be moving the actual machine itself, and the quilt stays where it is. Many of them do have what's called a stitch regulator, so that just helps keep your stitch length pretty much the same throughout. The faster you move the machine, the faster it stitches. Whereas if free motion quilting, you have to maintain that steady pace in order to get even stitching. Some of them are computerized and have ways you can program in designs. It does all of the quilting for you. This one doesn't do that, but a lot of others do. And then you don't even have to touch the machine. But it's a lot of fun. It is on the more expensive side, so I know it's not totally accessible for everyone, but you should check out your local quilting shops if you're interested in trying one out. A lot of them do have them for time, like you can rent time from them and you can learn how to use it. That way you know if you really like it before you jump the gun and decide to get one. You can also find them on marketplaces. You don't have to buy them brand new, so that's another good way to get one. I do have an example of something that I've sewn on there. You can really do a lot of different things, and it opens up a whole different world of designs. It's a little easier to do on a larger scale than free motion quilting. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and totally worth a shot. Okay guys, that's it for our video today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to our channel here at Dabline, we love helping quilters. If you guys have any ideas for things you'd like us to cover, leave it down in the comments below, and please give us a subscribe. We would really appreciate it. If you want to hear more about those templates and see them in action, you can check out our other videos, and we'll see you next time.